Alright, so we're going to go real quick through an easy way you can get a great punk rock tone for lead and rhythm guitar. Step 1 is the type of guitar you choose. I have a Fender Strat. Personally, I recommend single coil guitars because they have a little bit more of a bite that's associated with a lot of the old punk bands from like the 70s and 80s that you might want to play. Next, I would say the amp selection. Maybe if you're looking for something a little bit like more vintage, then I would go with a tube amp, specifically one that has a spring reverb built into it so you don't have to buy a pedal. The spring reverb is used a lot in surf rock or surf punk, whatever you want to call it. After that, I would take note of the pickup you select on your guitar. Personally, I almost always use the bridge pickup, which is this one, with the selection going all the way to the left. Well, I'm lefty, so it might be the opposite on your guitar. But the bridge pickup is good for that biting tone, like, you know. Yeah, and speaking of tone, EQ-wise on the amp, I pretty much put treble almost all the way up. I put bass about halfway up, and mids only around like 2. So I have a Fender Blues Junior amp, which has 2 volume knobs. The first one is labeled volume, and that's the one that controls the preamps. The preamps are where all of your overdrive is going to come from. So if you want a heavy tone, you crank your preamp knob, which might be labeled volume or something else. The other one is called master, and that just raises the total volume. It takes whatever the input is from the preamp and amplifies that. So if the signal is not coming in super hot through the preamp, then the power amps, which are the second stage, are not going to make it as loud, or as distorted, I should say. Speaking of distortion, that's the first pedal you should start with if you want to make punk music. There are 3 different kinds of distortion. You have overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. And in that order, they are increasing in their distortion. I'm going to use overdrive specifically in this lesson. I have a Marshall Bluesbreaker pedal, which is not really common, but any overdrive will do. I recommend that you crank up the gain to the max. The tone knob, you want heavier on the treble side, so past noon. And then the total volume knob, I leave around noon also. It's like 12 o'clock. That's because this pedal is especially loud and makes a loud hissing noise if you have the volume all the way up. Anyways, after that, the other main pedal that is used in punk is delay. And it's usually used pretty subtly. It's used as like a slapback effect. How you do that is you turn the time all the way down, and then you turn the repeats about halfway to 3/4, whatever your preference is. And you usually want to keep the volume below half. Even I usually put the volume or mix knob below 1/4 actually. Because it's really less is more kind of effect. Anyway, so this is just the sound of my guitar with only the amp. The preamp, the volume is cranked all the way to 12 because the samp goes to 12 instead of 10 for all the numbers. My master is only set around 2 or 3, but it's pretty loud. And I have my spring reverb turned to about half on there. Sometimes, depending on the song, I'll have the spring reverb up like really high, or sometimes I won't use it at all, and I'll just use delay to fill in that kind of space to make it sound less dry. So now we're going to turn on the overdrive and see what the difference is. So that sounds pretty good, but it can get even beefier. So if this isn't enough for you, then start cranking up the master volume on your amp. And maybe you can crank the volume on your pedal itself too. truthfully, the louder you go, the more overdriven your amp will get, and therefore the more distortion you'll hear, which is good in my book. So here, let's play another little... This is a song of mine, actually. It's a Holiday Man. You can look it up. It's on streaming. This is a good reference point because I use this video, all the tones I'm showing you, I use in the song itself. So it's a good example, like a practical application of it. And then the pre-chorus is like this. Alright, so the only other thing you really need in terms of basic necessities is maybe a delay pedal. And like I was talking about before, the settings, you want to have the repeats. Have the repeats around 1/2 to 3/4. I already said this. I'll just put that in later in the video. Alright, so this is what the delay sounds like. Yeah, it sounds really, here, I'll make it more prominent even by turning up the mix. It's got the sound of like the Lemon song, you know? And then if you want, this is how you get the Dead Kennedys tone on Police Truck. You want to turn the time up to about like 1/4. And then you can turn the sustain up even more, the feedback. And see, I gotta get the timing right, you know, you gotta just use your ear for that, just kind of nudge it. So I'd make that even less of a mix, honestly, because that's, you know, subtlety is key here. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the basics of getting a good punk rock tone. And this tone will work really well for your leads and your rhythm. Remember to be on your bridge pickup. Alright, see you in the next one. I'm going to cover technique in the next video, so like some good punk rock technique, like what scales people use, power chord theory, all sorts of harebrained nonsense that I came up with myself, actually. It's like fake music theory, I guess. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, thanks for watching.